Hello. I've tried to make this video a couple times and I've had to start over because there's too much going on in my life right now. As you all know, I had my wisdom teeth out a couple weeks ago, which is why I haven't uploaded in forever. But they're healing pretty well. I still have holes in my gums, so that's really fun. But my mouth feels a lot better now that they're out of my mouth. We're gonna start out with some of my old leftist posts. Now, I scrolled all the way back because I posted mostly on Facebook. I had posted on Instagrams and stuff as well, but all of those Instagrams have basically been deleted. So I don't have a lot of that. I have some Snapchat posts, but not really that much. So most of this is just Facebook. Actually, I think all of it is Facebook. I was a menace. So I scrolled all the way back to January 2021, and then I also did a little bit from 2020 as well. This was when I was probably my most extreme. I went my most extreme right before I just switched to pro-life and conservative and everything. And George Floyd was one of the things that made me go pretty psycho. I was still very liberal before that, but that was what made me go like really, really crazy leftist. But saying that, or that said, I was also very into which this is kind of what a lot of leftists do, is they don't like Democrats either. They think that Democrats are too far right. And so they'll vote for Democrats just to keep the, Nazi Republicans out of power, but they don't like Democrats either. So that was me. I voted for Biden in 2020 because I didn't want Trump in, but I did not like Biden. So I post a lot about Biden and Harris and how I didn't like them because they weren't extreme, they weren't extreme enough for me. And so here's a couple of these posts. We have from January 20th, when he was inaugurated. It says, now it's time to criticize the new ones. Just because they aren't Trump doesn't mean they're perfect. Keep pushing. And I shared an article that says, unpacking Kamala Harris's record on trans and sex work issues. I was very pro-trans and very pro-sex work, very pro-porn, OnlyFans, all that kind of stuff. So I really disliked Kamala Harris because she was apparently tough on that, if I remember correctly from this article that I probably just shared and didn't even read. Next one, same day, I shared a post that says, now that Biden won, watch me not wear his name on a hat or fly his flag on my lawn for 4 years like a freaking weirdo. Again, just talking about how I don't like Biden and trying to criticize Trump supporters in the process of it. And then I shared another thing a day after, that said Kamala Harris, but made up of all the people she prosecuted, and it's this like mosaic picture of all the people that she's prosecuted because I didn't like her. Remember, I was a leftist. I did not like her. What are you doing, dude? A couple days later, this quote, which again, at this point I have, can you move out of the way? At this point, I have still all conservative family members who follow me and are friends with me on Facebook, and I was posting this stuff to irritate them. This one, January 23. Oh yeah, this one, I was also an anarchist. So, I mean, I think you kind of have to be an anarchist to be a communist. I don't know how you could not be an anarchist and be a communist. I'm sure there are people that claim that. I just don't know how that would work. But yeah, I was very against the state, which that's what communism is a moneyless, classless, stateless society. So obviously whenever it's done, it can't stay that way. But that's the ideal behind what communism is. This one says, hi, I'm just here to say that you can't be arguing against communism if you still think it's when the government controls everything, because that's literally the opposite of what it is. Which again, that is the framework of what communism as an idea is. You're just going to have to deal with him making noise. But obviously we know, because we've seen, because people have tried communism, that that's not what it ends up being when it's put in place. There always ends up being a class divide no matter what. It's kind of just the human condition. And in order to implement communism, you need a state. You need a force. You need, whether you call it a state or not, there has to be a group of people that are implementing this change into society. So yeah, it doesn't work. And I was stupid, obviously. This one is just just look at it. I don't even want to explain this one. You guys can see how stupid it is. This one, I was very against Christianity, and you can see I said embrace the all. That was like me on shrooms or something. That was the psychedelics. There's this one, says, when I was younger, older people always said in a condescending voice that my views would get more conservative over time, but I've literally watched myself and a lot of other people my age go from affordable healthcare would be nice to we should eat the rich. It's funny because now look where I am. This one is stupid. This one was shared a lot in my circles. I was very anti-Christian, obviously, so I made a post about, or I shared a post about how Christian people apparently should not vote for their own morality, because somehow if your morality comes from a religion, then you don't have a right to want it implemented in your country. But if your religion, or if your morals come from self-worship or some pagan thing, then you should be able to. This one, do you hate gay people because your God does, or does your God hate gay people because you do? Again, just showing that I didn't have any type of good understanding of what Christianity is or what the Bible taught. Even before this, when I considered myself a Jesus freak, the most information that I had about Christianity was from growing up in a church that basically just taught me all the little kid Bible stories. I didn't even know what the Trinity was, or how it worked, or anything until I converted to Christianity after this phase of my life. We really need to be teaching our children a lot better, because I think that's a big reason that they're leaving, is because they don't even understand what Christianity is. I didn't even know that the Bible was just a compilation of historical manuscripts that have been dated to like the 1st, 2nd, 3rd century. We need to do better in the church. Anyways, this one's stupid, correlation versus causation. I still do think that a lot of people don't understand correlation versus causation, but I was just being a butt face in this post. Also now, my son is trying to drink a Diet Coke. You cannot have that. And my baby's crying, so I'll be back again. Okay, it's like 4 hours later. I don't know how long it's been. Don't get me started. The next one is me posting saying, you conservatives gonna get mad about the destruction after the Super Bowl? Nah, you only care to do that when it's Black people fighting for their lives. The amount of cringe that I experience going through these is astronomical, because apparently there's no difference between destroying cities, burning down personal businesses, killing people in the streets, assaulting people in the streets, over a drug addict who resisted police and ended up dying. There's no difference between that and jumping on cars after the Super Bowl, which, by the way, I am against doing that. But I don't think that there's going to be as much of an uprising, because number one, it's after one game. Number two, it's illegal and like everyone condemns it. And so the BLM protests and riots, technically illegal, but they were pretty much just skimmed over and no one really did much about them. There's definitely a difference there. The next one I posted, this one I kind of still agree with. It's just that like Republicans and Democrats are basically the same. For the most part, I agree with that. This one, crazy, the Miley Cyrus being pro-abortion. It's so funny because the post that I shared, the caption says, I'm 100% pro-choice and nothing will ever change my mind. My mind was changed. Anyways, 500,000 kids in foster care and you want to ban same-sex couples from adopting. Remind me again how pro-life you are. Because again, I couldn't understand that there is a distinction between not wanting kids to be killed in the womb, but also maybe thinking that certain adults aren't qualified or should not parent the children because those children have bad outcomes. If you say something like, I don't think that convicted felons should be able to adopt, then you also can't be pro-life, I guess, because you think that only good qualified parents should be able to adopt. And no, I'm not comparing convicted felons to homosexual people. I'm comparing the logic for everyone who's going to screech in the comments. See, I get this is tiring to have to like preface everything by saying that, because people don't understand what comparisons are anymore. They have no idea how this stuff works, and I spend most of my days talking to people and explaining to them how comparisons work and how you can compare logic and principles, and you're not necessarily saying that the things that you're comparing are the exact same. That's why it's a comparison. You're comparing the logic of two different things. Anyways, you guys probably understand. A lot of leftists don't. I'll just let you read this one. I don't even know what I'm saying here. I don't even know why I don't understand what I was even trying to say. Again, I'm conflating things that just the logic doesn't even correlate. You can thank essential workers who are working through a pandemic and putting their lives at risk. And you can also say that someone working at McDonald's shouldn't have a $15 an hour minimum wage, even though I think they do already. Or you could even say that maybe McDonald's should do it or could do it, but you want, small businesses to be able to offer something else, like a lower minimum wage, because maybe those jobs are not skilled and maybe those jobs, like, you understand? I mean, you understand probably. But how did I not understand that they're so different, the logic doesn't even match? Another straw man of Trump supporters, because I don't know, I thought that they didn't care about scientists, scholars, teachers, and economists, when they obviously do. There are many, many educated people who voted for Trump, just like there are many educated people who voted against Trump. It's just stupid to view everyone you disagree with like I viewed people then. Apparently it's a prejudice to think that men can't be women and women can't be men. Again, anything that had to do with people's feelings, I believed was like a human right or something. Like, now I can obviously understand trans people exist and they deserve human rights, which they have human rights. That doesn't mean that I'm going to say that a male can be a woman. And there are no male women. Every transphobic argument can basically be boiled down to, I actually don't know the science at all, or have a good argument here, but trans people challenge my long-held view of the world and it's very uncomfortable and everyone blah, 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 blah. Again, straw-manning the position. They don't understand what gender-critical people believe. They don't take the time to understand what we believe, and they just say, wow, you disagree with me? The only way that you could disagree with me is if you hate trans people, because they can't engage with what we actually believe. They don't know what we actually believe. They don't care what we actually believe. They just want to be able to justify violence against us. This was actually in my city, so that's fun. I thought that was super cool. And now it's funny because the same city is dealing with a lot of issues ever since the BLM stuff, and they like overhauled their whole system. It's like 5 days later. I don't even know where I left off or what I was saying when I left off. So I'm just gonna go back and do as many of them as I can. This is another one, says, I really don't have a problem with Jesus, I just have a problem with his fan club. This is something I probably stole off of the internet somewhere. Someone probably said that and I thought it was so cool. It's really just cringy at this point. Don't mind my dog. This is another one, forced pregnancy is a crime against humanity. This is when I was of the belief that, number one, random authorities in the world or in the US can determine morality. And number two, when I thought that abortion was forced, or banning abortion was forced pregnancy, when no one is forcing you to get pregnant if we were to ban abortion. So I don't know what I was thinking there. Probably the same thing that a lot of pro-choicers are thinking today, which is delusion. This one, I literally, this was the kind of person that I was on social media. I was just the one who was sharing things 25 times a day that were the stupidest things. It says anti-choice people are not trying to stop abortion. They're trying to legislate who can and cannot have abortions, because conservative politicians, their wives and mistresses and daughters are always going to be able to get an abortion somewhere. All criminalizing abortion will do is keep people trapped in poverty for generations. That's the goal. And if it wasn't the goal, they wouldn't spend their time and money on comprehensive sex education, free birth control, and free contraception. This is the entire point. There's a baby foot. Hi. This is what people still say to me all the time too, is that oh, well, conservative pro-life politicians will still have their mistresses get abortions. Then they are not pro-life. I'm not here saying that every single conservative who says that they're pro-life is actually pro-life. In fact, I think a lot of them are not, and they're just corrupt politicians who picked their side, and because the right and the conservatives are largely pro-life, that they just, I don't think that they actually care about abortion. They've proven they don't actually care about abortion. So my claim has never been about politicians being consistently pro-life. This one says, so y'all are okay paying taxes to send people to prison, but sending people to college is where you draw the line? LOL, okay. Yeah, I do think that my taxes should at the very least go to keeping serial rapists and murderers off the streets, but I'm not totally sure if I should pay for you to get a higher education. I don't know. I feel like my physical safety and my children's physical safety is something that I want to pay for. You going to get a gender studies degree or, you know, whatever they say, underwater basket weaving. I don't think I want to pay for that. Oh gosh. This is something that I hear all the time as a pro-lifer. It says, so no one was going to tell me that the Bible literally has a recipe for abortions and force women to get them if they had been unfaithful. Dang, this book y'all love seems to go against everything you preach. Numbers 5:11-31. The amount of times that people bring up this passage in the Bible to me doesn't make sense. You can tell that they haven't read it, or that they've only read the translation in the NIV and haven't actually looked into it. But even if we take the translation of the NIV, which is a mistranslation, if you actually look in the Hebrew, it says your thigh will rot and your belly will swell, which what they think that means is actually a fertility curse, not an abortion. But even if, let's pretend it is an abortion, that still would not justify women getting abortions whenever they want to on demand now. That's not how that works. At the very least, that would justify doing this specific ritual. Where are we doing this ritual for only women who have been unfaithful and have been proven to be unfaithful? Again, it's not even an abortion, but just granting the argument that it is an abortion, that doesn't do anything for the pro-choice argument. That doesn't mean now that every single abortion is justified. That's not how that works. This is a good one. This one is funny because it proves something that I deal with a lot now, where people think that all religions are the same because they're literally just like, well, religion means you believe in deity, so they're all the same. Muslims, Jews, Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, they're all the same because they all are a religion. That's what I thought. And that's what a lot of people think, and they come at me with, where it's like, why is your sky daddy any better than my sky daddy? This shows that you guys have not actually researched any of these religions. You don't actually understand. Most people don't even understand that the Bible is not just a book. It's not, first of all, it's multiple books, 66 to 78, depending on your denomination. But the Bible is historical manuscripts. It's not like people just wrote this and then we've had the physical Bible. The only reason we have books like what we have today, not the only reason, but one of the biggest reasons, is because Christians wanted to be able to give the Gospels to people, and they used to be on big scrolls, and those big scrolls were kind of hard to pass out to people and to manufacture, and so eventually the book came along. I digress. There's so much people don't know about specific religions. And they haven't looked into any of them. They just go based off of what they see on TikTok or Instagram or whatever they hear at their atheist conference that they go to, where, oh, religion bad, all religion same because you believe in Sky Daddy, so you must all be the same. So then if you think that all religions are the same, then obviously you would, this graphic would make sense, because you would think that they're all just worshiping a different flavor of the same thing. None of that is true. Like when we talk about the God of Islam, that is not the God of the Old Testament. That is not the God of the Bible. They try to claim that we worship the same God. We do not worship the same God. Even Jews, they try and say that Jews worship the God of the Bible. They don't. They don't worship the God of the Bible. And the only reason that they think that is because all these religions derive from the Torah or the Tanakh, or from the Old Testament books, that they think that they do. But Islam, I mean, that one has so many issues with it, because it directly goes against what the prophets taught and what the prophets said. But then the Quran also confirms what the Christians had with them, which would have been the Bible and the Gospels. So that alone doesn't make any sense. But Jews also reject Jesus Christ as the Messiah. And if they reject Jesus Christ as the Messiah, that means that they're rejecting God. So we can't worship the same gods. I'm going on a rant, but the point is that no one actually looks into anything that they talk about. Fork found in kitchen. Oh my gosh. Capitalism has told us that the American dream is being a mega millionaire or even billionaire. The American dream should be collectively building a society where no one starves or goes homeless and everybody is treated equally, fully insured, and paid a living wage. This is so funny because, number one, I've never heard the American dream being described as being a mega millionaire or a billionaire. Although that is something funny. That is the only way that you could possibly become a mega millionaire or a billionaire without some type of birthright is in a capitalistic society. And then saying, you know, we should collectively build a society where no one starves or goes homeless and everyone is treated equally. That is only possible through some type of capitalism where people are treated equally based on what they're doing, right? Based on how much their labor is valued at, based on how skilled they are. And there are going to be people who just either don't want to or just aren't as skilled as others, who maybe don't work as hard as others, who maybe don't play the game the right way, whatever it might be. But the only way that you can get, which is what this is trying to say, a society where there are equal outcomes is through force. And that's what I thought had to happen back then, was that we had to have an equal amount of wealth distributed so that there would be no way that you could move up. My number was, I think, 999 million. There was no way that you could move up past that. And even if you had that much, you were taxed to hell on it. That's what I thought. And I didn't know how taxes worked. I still honestly don't. Taxes are kind of confusing. But I do know that, you know, rich people find plenty of ways to make it so that their actual income is much lower, so that they're not actually taxed on, you know, the billions of dollars that they have. And they also aren't just these evil monopoly men sitting on pounds and millions and tons of pounds and millions and tons. I can't talk. You know what I mean, though. On just huge piles of cash. That's not how people become billionaires. And I thought that way. I literally thought like Elon Musk had a vault with like billions of dollars in it. And that's just clearly not how it works. But that's what I thought. And that's what a lot of people do think. I know my son is being loud. He's fine. He's just playing with toys and growling because that's what he does. Oh, look at this. The Bible has a crap ton of actual magic in it. But every Christian I know thinks magic is some kind of horrible thing, like talking snakes and water to wine and healing people with dirt is fine to y'all, but only if it's written in a 2,000-year-old book. Again, I had no idea what I was talking about. The reason why magic, like what I'm talking about, you're falling. The reason why magic is bad is because you're not doing it in the name of God. You're not, when I was a witch, I wasn't praying and asking God for healing or protection. I was trying to like channel energies that would have been evil energies, or trying to say that like this plant has a magical power to save my boyfriend from a car crash. It's because you are putting something above God. You are not going to God to ask for protection. You are not going to God to ask for healing or prosperity or whatever it is. You're putting something else above him. So talking snakes is not magic. Talking snakes, first of all, it was a serpent. And second of all, that was in the Garden of Eden. That was again, ordained by God. I don't know. When you're doing magic in the sense that I mean it there, it's not ordained by God. You're not asking God, hey man, can you protect me? You're going outside of him and trying to find something else that you think will protect you. And also water to wine and healing people. Those were miracles, again, by Jesus, who is God. And seeing the likes on these, the fact that I had so many people, a lot of these people were self-proclaimed Christians too. I don't know why he's growling. But these people were self-proclaimed Christians, and almost none of them, none of them corrected me. That's the whole argument that student loans should be forgiven because it's predatory lending. You as a lender wouldn't give an 18 to 25-year-old with little to no work history and no income $20K to $150K in loans under any other circumstances, but college is an exception. I do think that college is a scam. I do think that student loans are a scam. However, that doesn't negate the fact that you're an adult and you see this is how much I'm borrowing from this person or agency or company or whatever, and this is how much I'm going to have to pay them back. And with interest, I'm probably going to have to pay them back much, much more than I borrowed from them. And you know that, and you still wanted to go get your women's studies degree. And you put yourself thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt because you wanted that fine arts degree, and you are now mad that you can't do much with a fine arts degree. You're now mad that you're stuck at a minimum wage job, or you're now mad that you wanted to build a business and it didn't work because you just didn't have a good enough idea. And that's really hard for you to understand because people are telling you that everyone should have equal outcomes. That if you go to college, no matter what you're going for, that you should just be given what you want to do for the rest of your life. And that's just like, I get it. That's a beautiful ideal. That's never going to work. That's not how it works. You went $100,000 in debt for a gender studies degree. What else about gender do we need to study? What do we need to study about how the sexes interact in society? I think we know. I think everything has already been studied. I don't think we need any more gender studies, but you still did that. And you were fully aware that that was what you were going to do. So you can argue that it's predatory for them to say, here, I'll give you this amount of money, and I know you're only 18 years old. You still did it, though. You were an adult and you knew what you were doing. Rant over. This was talking about George Floyd's, Derek Chauvin, and, that whole trial. And I said, so if it's not guilty, we're rioting, right? And I mean effing crap up, because the oppressors already know they're oppressing. They built and support that system. Peacefully telling them to please stop oppressing us isn't going to do anything. We don't need peaceful protests. They do nothing clearly. It's time to actually make some people listen, maybe. Remember in my first testimony video when I said that I personally never did anything violent, but I would cheer on the violence and incite the violence? And the worst part is that it ended up being guilty. And Derek Chauvin is, I think he's still in prison. I don't actually remember what happened completely. But yeah, Derek Chauvin is actually, he was found guilty, probably because of all the pressure. If it was an unbiased courtroom situation, I don't think that he would have been. What have the conservatives conserved? Racism. That's kind of funny. Obviously stupid, but kind of funny. Stop immigration so we can take care of our own. I'm starving. F off. This still gets me. That's funny. That is funny. But I can obviously recognize that this is a straw man of the entire position of the right, but it is absolutely hilarious. Like, just that it's funny. I know. Again, it's a straw man. It's not what the right actually believes, but that is objectively a funny cartoon. On behalf of, I don't know, every fat kid in the USA, I'm gonna go ahead and call BS on the whole bullying creates mass shooters narrative. LGBTQ kids, kids of color, disabled kids, poor kids, girl kids are bullied. Who's doing the shootings? White boys whose parents don't secure their guns. First of all, that's kind of true. I actually don't remember the argument ever being made that bullying makes school shooters. I think you could argue that people who are weird get bullied, and that can exacerbate already mentally ill children. Like, that it can help it along. I don't know if, that's the entire argument for trans kids, is that they're committing suicide at such high rates because they're being bullied. I think we all recognize that people being bullied is not a great thing to happen. I think arguably in some cases bullying is justified, but not in general. So I don't even know what this is trying to say. I would say that parents should lock up their guns. I think this is just a straw man of the conservative position, which is what all of us did, when I was on the left. I'm not a leftist. Oh no, everyone's gonna think that I'm a secret leftist. I promise I'm not. Guys, maybe it's time to update the 200-year-old documents that rule our country. Yeah, I think that you should listen to 20-year-old Evelyn, who has zero life experience and doesn't even know how the government works. I think you should listen to her. I think that people who are much older and who have an education on the topic, and I think that, people who have done this for a living for their whole lives, I think those people should listen to Evelyn, who gets her information from TikTok and Wall Street Journal articles. I think you should. Pro-life means universal living wage. Guys, I'm gonna stop now. I genuinely, trying to scroll back so far to find this stuff was already hard enough. I am... Happy Pride Month. Jesus had 2 dads. We think that's fabulous. I agree, dude. Blind atheists are closer to Jesus than mean Christians. Do we know what a Christian is? This was after the boycotting of Lil Nas X. Which, some of this is true. Nike has been engaging in very unethical practices for a very long time. But it's not homophobia. No one cares that Lil Nas X is gay. We cared, or not me, but back then conservatives cared because they cared because he was being weirdly demonic. Which again, I don't know, like burning Nike shoes, that's not doing anything to the company, but like you can be outraged about a person being demonic. I don't know why that's a bad thing. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is gonna be my last one because honestly, I'm just sick of doing this and the cringiness is hurting me. But this highlights something that leftists do, and this is a leftist just blatantly saying this is what they do. It says, hot take, we should raise the minimum wage to $17.76 an hour, then rename it Patriot Pay. So we are going to force them to say that they're against Patriot Pay. This is hilarious because this is what I've been exposing that the left does. And I mean, it's not like I'm doing anything new. We all know that the left does this, but it's just funny because they're admitting it here, that they use language to try and make people who oppose their ideas look bad. When they say trans rights are human rights, and then you say, well, I don't think that trans people should be in my bathrooms with my daughter, then they say, oh, so you don't believe that trans rights are human rights? And it's like, well, no, trans people have human rights. I just don't think that they should be in my bathroom with my daughter or in my sports with my daughter. I think that's kind of crazy. But it's what they do, this language manipulation, and they do it with bills too. Sorry, my hair is so annoying today. They do it with bills too, where they call the bill I love puppies, and then Republicans are like, wait, in this I love puppies bill, you're saying that we're gonna raise the tax level by this much and whatever, and we don't like that. And then the Democrats can come out and say, well, the conservatives want to kick puppies. Actually, they really hate puppies because we named this bill the I love puppies bill, and they're against the bill, so they hate puppies. They do it all the time. Hi, buddy. Okay, everyone is getting annoyed. Hello. And my other son is coming down now. Yay. So this is the outro. I love you guys. Subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, ask me a question. I have to go. My life is insane. Say hi to my friend. His name is George. He showed up yesterday and he hurts.